Konnichiwa minasan. Ure sensei desu. Let's go over our number 4, lesson 14 grammar assignment. And in this lesson, we're going to be focusing on learning how to say something that you want to try to do. Now, this is less of like a, oh, let me try this out. It's more like a try as in something you haven't done before. So try something new. So in order to say that you want to try to do something, you have to use the mitai desu form. Now, mimasu, in this case, means to try to do something. So mitai means want to try to do something. Mitai desu means want to try to do something. So in order to use this grammar structure we're learning, we have to again revisit the te form. So we visited this grammar or this verb conjugation briefly in Japanese 1A. And now we're going to come back to it and we're going to keep practicing it here and there. It's not expecting you to get it perfectly. We just want to keep revisiting it so we can get familiarized with it. So in part 1, it says, let's practice conjugating verbs from formal form to dictionary form and te form according to their verb group. Now, pages 3 to 6 of this document may be very helpful, and we have 2 examples done. So we're going to practice dictionary form, which is also known as casual form, and then we're going to, again, revisit the te form. So the last 3 pages of this document are going to be your best friend for this assignment. So we're going to be referring to that and it'll be very helpful, I promise you. So in the examples, we have hashirimasu, which means to run, and then we have demasu, which means to exit or to leave. So I have the group numbers. I have the formal form of the verb, and then I have the group number that it's in. So let's go down to page 3, where it talks about basics in verbs and verb groups. So I don't want to spend too much time on this, but long story short, we have 3 verb groups: group 1, group 2, and group 3. Now, most verbs are going to fit into group 1 and 2. General rules are that any verbs in group 1, the verb stem will end in an E sound. So in case we need a refresh on what a verb stem is, any verb, like every verb has a verb stem and it's whatever comes before mas in formal form. So like we have a list of some verbs here. Written Romaji, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. It'll let me zoom. I don't know why it's not letting me zoom in. But anyway, so we have hanashimasu. So the verb stem is hanashi. Kaerimasu, verb stem is kaeri. Nomimasu is nomi. Hajimarimasu is hajimari. And hopefully you get the idea. Kaimasu, kai. Asobimasu, asobi. So I'm going to want to focus on that verb stem. Now, again, back to group 1. Group 1 verbs generally end in a verb, like the verb stem will end in an E sound. So hanashi, kaeri, nomi, hajimari, kai, asobi. Notice they all end in that E sound. So any verb stem that ends in E, ri, chi, shi, mi, ki, gi, hi, bi, pi, group 1. Now, group 2 verbs generally are going to end in an E sound. The group 2, the verb stems are going to end in an E sound. So nemas, demas. Now, another rule of group 2 verbs is that they can have a verb stem that's only 1 character or 1 syllable. So we have ne, de, tabe, ake, age, oshiet, and then our other one is like mimas. Mimas is a group 2 verb, and that's because the verb stem is only 1 syllable, or in other words, it's only 1 character. Mimas. Mi. So, and then group 3 verbs, pretty much it's only 2 verbs that fit in that category, shimas and kimas. I also like to include the verb ikimas in there because ikimas conjugates kind of to its own, to its own rules. Like it's irregular if you ask me, but it's technically a group 1 verb. We can go over that too. So just wanted to go over briefly what verb groups are and why I included them and why they're so important. So they are so important because they're going to determine how you conjugate your verbs. Let's start with formal to dictionary form verbs. So you're going to take your verb that you're given. So in the re, we were given hashirimasu. Now we already know that it's a group 1 verb because I put it down there. So hashirimasu. So what is the verb stem of hashirimasu? Do you remember what a verb stem is? So we want to remember that the verb stem is what comes before mas. So our verb stem here is hashiri. Now hashiri ends in ri, so we definitely know it's a group 1 verb. So we're going to pay attention to this group 1 verb table. This is going to help us determine how to conjugate it into its dictionary form. So hashirimasu ends in ri. So we'll look for verb stem ending ri. It says to replace the final syllable with ru. So hashirimasu changes to ha-shi-ru. You simply are going to cancel out mas and the last character or syllable of the verb stem and replace it with ru. So hashirimasu turns into hashiru. Now, the other example given, there's a bunch of examples here. For every single verb stem ending, we have an example. And I think I show it pretty clearly what you need to cancel out, what you need to add in, and what each step looks like in this conjugation process. Now, as you go through it, you will understand that there is a sort of rhyme and reason to this. It's just complex. So for now, you'll probably need to use the table to help conjugate, but over time, I promise you, it will come naturally. So our second example is demasu. So demasu is a group 2 verb. So let's clear this. So we have demasu. So demasu, it says to simply add ru after the last syllable of the verb stem. So in demasu, what is our verb stem? Well, only de comes before mas, so de is simply our verb stem. Now de does not change, but instead we're going to cross out mas and we're going to add in ru. So we get, demas in its dictionary or casual form is de ru, deru. All right, and then whenever you're dealing with any group 3 irregular verbs, they kind of just go to their own rhyme or their own irregular sort of rhyme and reason. So I would just know that shimas turns into suru and kimas turns into kuru. Okay, I hope that helps with the dictionary form verbs and how to conjugate those. Please let me know if you have any questions. Happy to help you. Now let's move on to te form. So we'll revisit te form. It's always fun. So let's start with hashirimasu. Let's go down here. So page 5 is all about te form. Okay, so this time we're going to learn about conjugating verbs from their dictionary form to their te form. So for hashirimasu, hashiru is a group 1 verb, which we know because I wrote it in there, numbered it already for you to help. So let's first write it out, hashiru. Now let's look on this table for group 1 verbs. So this, I apologize, this should not be verb stem ending. This should be dictionary verb ending. So hashiru ends in ru. So we're going to focus on this first column. Now, any verb that ends in, or dictionary verb that ends in ru, su, or u, you're going to replace that final syllable. In this case, ru, you're going to replace it with small su and a te and a te. So that gives you the tte, te, te. So hashiru conjugates, or let's write the steps out. So we're going to cross out this ru and we're going to add small su and te. So we get ha, shi, te. So just be clear, this is written in Romaji, so it might be a little confusing, but the double consonant is from the small su. So hashiru changes to hashite. And maybe just to make this more clear, I will put in a different color. Oh gosh, pen is wonking out. Okay, stop. Let's go to green, draw. No, 10. Okay, so we did that one. Now our second example was demas. And it was clearly labeled as a group 2 verb. So let's start with deru. That's its dictionary form. Now for group 2 verbs, super easy. All you need to do is cancel out the ru and replace it with a single te. So we get deru changes to dete. All right, and then group 3 verbs, kuru, kimasu or kuru changes to kite. Shimasu or suru changes to shite. All right, hopefully that helps. It's going to be the most challenging to conjugate group 1 verbs. Those have the most rules because they have the most possibilities of endings. And then group 2 verbs are always really easy to conjugate. Like for group 2 verb conjugations to te form, all you do is erase ru and add te. So super simple. Now let me know again if you have any troubles reading and understanding those tables. Hopefully they are clear though. So yeah, just go through each of these, pay attention to the last syllable and the verb group number that I provide, and hopefully the table is helpful and clear. So now for our part 2 audio, I have an example for this one, so let's go ahead and listen to it together. Now, before I play it, I'm going to try to share my sound real quick. There we go. So hopefully you can hear this really clearly. It will load. Chotto mate kudasai. It's just taking some time to load. Okay, here we go. Kikimashou. So we'll listen through it straight once, and then I always recommend to pause it after each sentence. And you'll want to pay attention to that bending na tango section. I don't think I have a bending na tango section for the example, but for the other 2 in part 2, you're going to want to pay attention to that bending na tango section, listen carefully, and pause after each sentence. Okay, kikimashou.
Person 1. 動物園に行ってみたいですか? Person 2. はい、行ってみたいです。
Okay, so super simple. We have a conversation between 2 people. One person's asking, do you want to do this? And the other person says yes or no. So all the questions are going to be that same kind of format. They might have some like random commentary or conversation in there, but really just pay attention to what is it person 1 is asking the other person if they want to do, and then what is person 2's response. Okay, so let's listen to this one more time, and I'll pause after each sentence and kind of go over it.
Person 1. 動物園に行ってみたいですか?
Okay, so I said in that audio, 動物園に行ってみたいですか? 動物園 is zoo. So I'll go ahead and type that. So, let's see. 動物園 is zoo. に行ってみたい desu ka? So dobutsuen is zoo. Ni is our destination particle. So this tells us that the dobutsuen or the zoo is where we are, the destination of where we are going. So ite is the te form of ikimasu. So typically a verb stem that ends in ki does not, it conjugates to ite. So really it should be iite, but it's not, it's actually ite, probably because ite is easier to say than iite. So that's why I say that ikimasu is like, has an irregular conjugation. And I put that in the Beni no Tango section because I don't expect you to know that right away, obviously. So please be aware that ikimasu conjugates into ite. I, small tsu, te. So the ite mitai desu ka? And we know that mitai desu ka means do you want to try? Ka is our question particle. So you should know that by now. But altogether, this person is asking, do you want to try going to the zoo? Now let's listen to person two's response.
Person 2. はい、行ってみたいです。
Okay, so this person gives a very simple response. They say, はい、行ってみたいです. So very simple response. They just answer with はい, which means yes, and then 行ってみたいです. I do want to try to go. So super simple. Maybe not, maybe not simple at this point, but hopefully the explanation helps simplify it. So I know that Japanese is a very difficult language to learn, and you are doing an amazing job just going through it and trying your best. So yoku dekimashita, I'm proud of you. Now let's move on to part 3. Now we're going to practice using the te mitai desu form. So it's not always small too. But I'm just fix that. So part 3 is to practice using the te mitai desu form for something new you want to do. Try to use unique verbs in each sentence and write 2 sentences about what you want to do. Then write the English translation underneath. Eigo means English. So now pages 3 to 6 of this document may be very helpful as we went over. So yeah, 3 to 5, actually, not 3 to 6. Well, I got little mistakes here, so good to check it out so I can fix them. Sorry about that, you guys. Okay, I'll take that time. Okay, perfect. So you have complete freedom over what you put in here. I mean, keep it respectful and all that and school appropriate. But just think about something that you want to try to do. Maybe something you want to try to do in Japan, which is what our flip grid's about. So let's think about what we might want to do in Japan. Let's just practice. So in our day, I say Hokkaido ni ite mitai desu. I want to try going to Hokkaido. So we can be more specific and say Nihon de. So in Japan, Nihon is Japan, de is our location particle. Nihon de Hokkaido ni ite mitai desu. So let's go over this again. So Nihon is Japan. De tells us that Nihon is the location of where we're doing this. Hokkaido is a northern prefecture in Japan. Ni is our destination particle. It tells us that Hokkaido is the destination of where we are wanting to go. Ite mitai desu. Again, ite is the te form of ikimasu. So if we want to put this into a grammatical structure, sentence structure, it would be something like, you kind of have to make the sentence up yourself. It all depends on what you're wanting to try to do. But so it's going to be just like whatever you want. And then you're going to have your verb in te form. And then mitai desu. So hopefully at this point we can put together a sentence, like a unique sentence, and know which particles to use and whatnot. If it's okay if you don't do it perfectly. I'll make sure to annotate your sentences and try to clearly explain which particles to use and why. But we just want to make sure our sentences end in that te mitai desu. So conjugate your verb into its te form, add mitai desu. And I just kind of realized this too. So if you want to say something like I want to swim, the gi, and so oyogimasu. Oyogimasu is to swim. Oyogi is the stem. Gi is the final syllable. And gi actually conjugates into ide. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this te because it could end in de. Like you could say oyoide mitai desu. I want to swim. Like Hawaii de oyoide mitai desu. Now don't use that in your thing. I'm going to know you just copied what I said, but that's just an example. So you're going to want to end it in its verb stem in its te form, mitai desu. And that's about it. So let me know if you have any questions. Always here to help and support. You can check my Calendly if I have any openings. Feel free to schedule one with me and we can work together. And I hope that was helpful. All right, ganbatte kudasai. じゃあね。